Welcome to the college football preview show here on Unafraid Show. You guys can make sure that you guys watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Twitter. You can watch it on Facebook, wherever you want to watch. But most importantly, make sure that you guys share with a friend, tell a friend about it, get notifications and everything in between. We will be here every single Saturday doing the Lord's work with college football, and it is week 0. Yes, we only have 4 games today. But Lord have mercy, it is finally here. We started with damn near 200 sleeps, and now there are no more sleeps. College football is starting. We got 4 big games today. We got Florida State, Georgia Tech. We got SMU, Nevada. We got Delaware State, Hawaii. And we also have Montana State in action too. So, of course, we got to make predictions, previews, and everything in between for this college football season and everything else. And of course, there are news and notes because there's a big controversy going on over in Colorado. Shocking, believe it or not. And that's where we'll start because Deion Sanders has obviously been doing a really good job at Colorado in terms of generating buzz, generating energy, and everything else. And remember, here on the Unafraid Show, we're going to talk about things unafraid. We are going to give you the news quickly, honestly, and simply. So here's the truth about what's going on with Colorado and over with the Buffaloes and Deion Sanders. So Deion Sanders has done a great job of generating interest in the University of Colorado. He has gotten Warren Sapp there. He's gotten Game Day. He's gotten national news, 60 Minutes, everybody in between. So he's done a great job of that. But when it comes to roster building, he's not done the best job at roster building yet. Has he amassed Shedeur Sanders, Shiloh, Travis Hunter, and a bunch of other really good skill position players? 100%. Did he bring in Jordan Seaton, the number 1 tackle last year? 100%. But as coaches are showing, building through the transfer portal is not the optimal way to build, particularly on the defensive and the offensive lines, which is where Colorado has gone out and, not done a good job of recruiting in high school. Because on the offensive line, if you really pay attention to the transfer portal, you don't have a lot of high end offensive linemen transferring. Sometimes you'll have a kid transfer, like Oregon picked up a kid at Johnny Cornelius from Rhode Island and he goes to Oregon. Okay, cool. But that's not those guys will hop in the portal, but not really guys from Missouri transferring to Alabama or UCLA transferring to Michigan. That just is not the norm. It's more of the skill position players. So it's hard to build a very good and deep offensive line aside from guys who got pushed into the portal or may not be necessarily the caliber of player that you're looking for. And I'm just talking about the offensive line in particular because the skill position players, they hop in all the time. And wide receivers, they're not a dime a dozen, but there's a lot more impactful wide receivers than there are big time impactful offensive tackles. That's just the reality of it. And yes, wide receivers are important and everything else. But this is where Deion Sanders has to get out and go out on the recruiting trail. And he does not like to recruit. He made an excuse saying that there was, coaches in schools are going to be upset with me if I come around and don't go to the next school. Yeah, they probably will be a little bit, but they'll also understand. How do you think Nick Saban, Kirby Smart do it? And these dudes been winning multiple national championships and they get on the road recruiting. Yes, their assistants do the majority of the recruiting work because coaches have limited time that are allowed to be out on the road and home visits and visits with kids and everything else. So his role would already be less than the assistant coaches. And then remember, he said we're gonna offer kids that before we see their tape and guys with no offers and all of this stuff, they still haven't offered a single player that has not had an offer. Think about that. Still have not. And for Deion to be successful, he's gonna have to build up a high school recruiting pipeline because college football, no matter about the transfer portal or anything else, is always going to come down to development. That's what it's going to come down to. The winners are going to develop their high school players the best and then plug and play through the transfer portal. This is why I don't mind Dabo Sweeney's philosophy of not really dabbling in the transfer portal, even though he should a little bit, because he's standing on business when it comes to his recruiting and actually making his coaches more responsible for doing a good job of evaluating talent. And then once they get that talent in, making sure that they are cultivating it and developing that talent. That's the thing I do like about what Dabo's doing. Because leaning onto the transfer portal, it's like leaning on to even worse than leaning on to junior college when teams used to do it. It just makes it so much harder to recruit and sustain your pipeline of players. 100% harder. And then the other thing that makes it harder is the NIL, which is what this new issue with Colorado has been, because there has been a scandal brewing about that. So what's happened is that their special teams coordinator resigned over there on August 1st. His name is Trevor Riley. And then Trevor went to their NIL collective and was trying to get funding pulled from it and to get donors to pull their money and their support from the collective, because he was disgruntled with people in the administration and probably some of the coaching staff. So, and Riley has said that he spent time in the Middle East this past holiday trying to and lobbying the Saudi Public Investment Fund, yes, the PIF, for NIL money. So this creates an entirely different can of worms, because the Saudi government, I know it sounds ridiculous, but the Saudi government owns multiple international professional soccer teams outright, along with being a stakeholder in Chelsea, Newcastle United, and they're the lead backer for Live Golf. They tried to buy the PGA Tour, and partners in the ATP, which is tennis, and Formula One. So Saudi, that whole sports washing term, is trying to sports wash and make money and get their teeth in everything. And we saw it in boxing when we just saw the Terrence Crawford fight. So, and we saw that that the lead um, investor, he ended up getting inducted into the WBC Hall of Fame and getting honored before the entire boxing match. So is that what we're gonna do at Colorado with NIL? Like, imagine Travis Hunter or Shadur's main, or even in any college, their main backer or their main NIL provider being the Saudi investment fund. I don't think that that's a good idea. And there creates a whole nother set of ramifications here, because the PIF is definitely, if the NFL would allow it, which they won't, at least at this point in time, they they would buy an NFL franchise. But the NFL at this point in time wants no part of it. Neither does the NBA, neither does the MLB. Because now you create a whole different can of worms, buddy. Whole different can of worms. And do you really want to open up that part of Pandora's box? So Colorado has to get everything buttoned up. And this is where I do not believe that. Okay, if you read Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, he talks about the 10,000 hours that's needed for mastery of a subject. And Deion Sanders is still in the early process of learning to be a college football head coach, because I do believe that he's a good leader. I do believe that he knows football, but there are a lot of things in terms of dealing with the media, in terms of dealing with, some of the things that are going to come along with recruiting and everything else, that Deion Sanders is still learning. And that doesn't mean that he can't be successful as a head coach. It just means that there's a learning curve, just like every other head coach. But he just has the spotlight on him at a much higher level, because he was never a college football coach prior. So he didn't have, some of the learning that he needed to do as he got there. And it's different at Jackson State than it is at Colorado, especially in the NIL era, because things changed. And while he was trying to learn and adapt, but obviously there are other coaches that aren't necessarily adjusting or figuring out as well either. But Deion Sanders has brought such a spotlight because he is Deion Sanders. He's magnetic. The shoes, the the commercials, the everything. So there are people that are rooting on his downfall. Now, I want him to be successful, want him to have success. But sometimes people mistake somebody wanting you to have success and get frustrated if there is some criticism or there's some pushback on some things that they may not be doing accurately and correctly. But that's it. We do have a bunch of games today, though, and I am excited about it. And before we get to those games, I got to give you guys my predictions for the season, my college football playoff, and I put it out on Twitter. You can go find this on Twitter, but here it is right here, people. We have the college football playoff. Here is my bracket. I have the one seed. The one seed is the Georgia Bulldogs, two Oregon Ducks, three Florida State, and number four, Utah. Then we're going to finish up with five Texas, Ohio State six, Ole Miss seven, Penn State eight, Notre Dame nine, Alabama 10, Miami 11, and Liberty 12. Now, I have vacillated on the Liberty at number 12, and the other teams I considered were Boise State and Memphis. Now, Boise State is a little bit tricky because Boise State plays Oregon this year. And if they get their doors knocked off by Oregon, I do believe that the committee is then going to ding them when it comes to voting, when it comes to if they are, if it's, them and Liberty close or them, Liberty and Memphis close, they're probably going to choose one of the other teams because they aren't going to want to see a massacre in the college football playoff because they have already seen that movie. Um, Another team that I struggled with was in the ACC with Florida State and Miami because there's a side of Clemson that you can put in there too. And because you don't know how they're going to be with Cade Klubnik, how much better has that young man gotten? Because he's going to be the difference in Clemson winning, 9 games and them winning 11 games. That's going to be the biggest difference. Because I do think that we are going to, that with the new super conferences, it is going to be extremely difficult for the Big Ten to go undefeated. Now, over in the SEC, where they're still playing 8 conference games, you can still see some teams make it through unscathed. But when they move to 9 conference games, which hopefully they will, because it's only right. And you can't say that the SEC is more of a gauntlet than the Big Ten right now. The Big Ten is murderer's row too. The ACC still at 8 conference games. The Big 12 is at 9. And there's a lot of stuff going on there. So I have Oregon as my eventual champion. And I know here it comes. Georgia homer pick. Come on. How are you going to say that? You're an Oregon guy. Yes, I am an Oregon guy. But I also said that Washington was a better team last year. In terms of, like, I had them ranked higher earlier. So I can be honest and transparent about the situation. The one team, though, that I am the most scared about in this college football playoff is Texas because Texas lost a lot last year. And Sark's only had one double digit winning season. So that's a little bit of a concern. And their quarterback situation, that is something to watch because Quinn Ewers is obviously the starter, but watch for um, Arch Manning getting in the game. Watch that. Because if they don't have early season success, like knocking the doors off of people like they think that they should, watch Arch getting in the game. Arch, excuse me, Arch. I will get the kid's name right consistently. I will not Tyler Shuck him. So that's the college football playoff as I have presented it. And so, yeah. So you guys like it, follow along. And I think that Notre Dame is better than a lot of people think. I do. I do. I think that this is going to be scary. I'm also excited about Jalen Milroe over at Alabama. Now, I'm actually more afraid of Alabama falling off next year than I am this year. This year, I think they're going to be good because Kalen DeBoer is a hell of a coach. They're recruiting well. They have a returning quarterback. This could, yeah, I think that they'll do better this year than they can in the next years. All right. Now let me do my picks for the game today. So my picks for the game today are as such. We have Florida State. So we have Florida State at well, not at Georgia Tech because the game's in Dublin. And this game, this was the line a couple days ago. And this is the line today. So we have so the Florida State game has gone down from 11 to 10 and a half. Montana State, New Mexico has gone from 13 and a half down to 11. SMU was favored by 27. That's going up to 27 and a half. And Hawaii got another point. So the lines haven't moved too much, but there we are. And we're going to start with this Florida State Georgia Tech game. I have been struggling with this game because Florida State is obviously a team that I just picked to be in the college football playoff and winning the ACC. And this is an ACC game. At the current number of 10 and a half points, I'm going to have to take, I'm still, same pick. I'm going to take Georgia Tech, but I'm going I'm going to take Georgia Tech in the points. But I believe Florida State will win this game. So if I were betting the money line, obviously I'm going to take Florida State. But if it comes down to just taking the points, give me Georgia Tech because they returned top 10 production on a top 25 offense last year. This is a veteran team. Hayes King, their quarterback who beat Miami last year, made some clutch throws. This is a team that is going to be much more formidable. This is not your father's Georgia Tech team. This is not the Calvin Johnson Georgia Tech team. And DJ Uiagalelei, who was the biggest addition, he is going to be breaking in there, and it's overseas. I think that this is just a recipe for a much closer game than people really want to admit. So give me Florida State to win and give me Georgia Tech to cover that 10 and a half points, even though I originally picked it at 11, but still feel pretty good about that. All right, next game up, we have Montana State, New Mexico. And Montana State is ranked the number 4 FCS team. Number 4 FCS team. So this an FCS team being a double-digit favorite over a FBS team, that is rare. That virtually never happens. So, I mean, that's some North Dakota State, South Dakota State if they were playing New Mexico as well. So, Bronco Mendenhall is the coach over at New Mexico, former Virginia coach, but this line looks nasty. But I'm going to take Montana State minus 13 and a half. Well, actually, yes, minus 13 and a half. This is a huge number. The number's going up for some reason. I'm not sure about the injuries around New Mexico, which I'm actually excited that we're going to get some sort of injury report soon for some of these in college football because the bettors are demanding it. All right, next game up. We got SMU Nevada. This is very interesting because Rhett Lashley, head coach at SMU. SMU is paying their way in the ACC, paying their way. They're not getting the TV money that everybody else is getting. So they are going to want to prove that they are here and they are ready. And Nevada's quarterback, Brendan Lewis, who was in it with Chuba Purdy, Brock Purdy's brother, in a quarterback competition, but Chuba has had a shoulder injury, so he's not starting. And Brendan Lewis has only thrown 2 touchdown passes in like his last 130, 140 passes. He's not a high octane quarterback, and neither is this team. But I am excited to see Sean Dollars, who transferred from Oregon, in this game. But This feels like a runaway for SMU. They've recruited better, transfer portal, 27 and a half points. I normally don't love these huge lines, but give me SMU minus 27 and a half. They are going to try to make a statement as they enter into the ACC, and Nevada is going to be the victim of this one. I'm sorry. In the last game up, we have Delaware State. So Delaware State actually made it to Hawaii because they missed their flight on Tuesday for a scheduling snafu or bus snafu, which I was like, wow, this is a small school, big school problem because Delaware State obviously doesn't have the same funding as even Hawaii, and who's going to take charter flights everywhere. So to have to get 100 seats on a commercial flight, a little bit tricky if you miss it. And this line is huge too. It's grown to 40 points. This is a game that starts 9 p.m. Pacific here in California. That is midnight in Delaware, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning in Hawaii. You think these kids' body clocks is going to be right? Absolutely not. Hawaii Hawaii minus a million. You could make this 50 points over 40 points, and I'm still taking Hawaii right now. So those are the predictions for it. And you guys have those are predictions for the game today. And I wanted to make sure that you guys knew too. We will be here either after the games conclude or Sunday mornings. We will be here giving you guys the information about and recapping all the games because I know that you're not watching the NFL right now, but Unafraid Show will be here for you all season. We're going to be bringing on guests. We're going to have excitement. Love what's going on, and college football is back. You guys make sure that you guys like, subscribe, tell a friend about it. Peace out. Off to my kids' games to be iPadding, and because I have a kid playing college football. I got a kid playing Little League. Well, damn. Little League football, volleyball, everything else, jujitsu. So this iPad and this phone will be my friends. I'm gonna be there like, go kid. But you guys, make sure that you guys like, subscribe, tell a friend. We will be back tomorrow. Peace.